There is a plant growing wild in parking lots across America that contains more omega-3 fatty acids than salmon, not per serving, per leaf. The supplement industry charges you $20 a bottle to replicate what this humble weed produces for free. Yet every hardware store in the country sells chemicals specifically designed to kill it. The agricultural giants have spent decades convincing you that the most nutritious plant on your property is your enemy. This is not about some exotic superfood from a remote mountain in Tibet. This is not about an expensive powder shipped from the Amazon rainforest. This is about something growing through the cracks in your sidewalk right now. Something your great-grandmother knew how to use. Something that could revolutionize how we think about nutrition if the corporations would let us remember. But here is what they do not want you to know. This plant thrives where their crops fail. It grows without their fertilizers, survives without their pesticides, and reproduces without their permission. It cannot be patented, it cannot be controlled, and it produces more essential nutrients per square foot than anything in their catalogues. The story begins in a laboratory in 1992. Dr. Artemis Simopoulos was analysing the nutritional content of wild plants when she encountered results that seemed impossible. The numbers did not make sense. Land plants simply do not produce the types of omega-3 fatty acids she was measuring. Those compounds come from fish, from algae, from the ocean, not from something you step on walking to your car. She ran the tests again. Same results. She brought in other scientists to verify the data. They confirmed what should have been biologically impossible. This common weed was producing marine omega-3 fatty acids, the same compounds that make fish oil supplements so expensive, the same nutrients that doctors tell us we need more of, growing wild everywhere for free. The plant had been feeding humans for thousands of years before anyone thought to call it a weed. Archaeological evidence shows it sustained entire civilizations. Ancient Greeks cultivated it alongside their essential crops. Roman armies carried it across 3 continents. Native American tribes harvested it as a cornerstone of their diet. Medieval Europeans ate it at every meal. Then something changed. Not because the plant failed, because it succeeded too well. The shift happened gradually, then all at once. Industrial agriculture demanded control, crops that ripened on schedule, seeds that had to be purchased every season, plants that required specific chemicals to survive. This wild plant asked for nothing. It grew where nothing else would. It spread without permission. It fed people without generating profit. The solution was elegant in its cruelty. Reclassify abundance as invasion. Rename food as pest. Teach generations that the plant their ancestors treasured was their enemy. Create an entire industry dedicated to its destruction. Make people pay to eliminate what once kept them alive. Today, homeowners spray it with chemicals developed as weapons of war. Landscapers pull it from gardens to plant decorative flowers that require constant care. Agricultural extensions publish detailed guides on its eradication. The infrastructure of modern horticulture treats this nutritional powerhouse like a biological threat. But the plant refuses to surrender. It adapts to herbicides faster than companies can develop new formulas. It survives in soil so contaminated that nothing else will grow. It thrives in drought conditions that kill crops worth billions. Every attempt to control it only proves how resilient it truly is. The nutritional profile reads like science fiction. More omega-3 fatty acids than any other land plant ever measured, 7 times more vitamin E than spinach, 6 times more beta-carotene than carrots, levels of potassium that surpass bananas, magnesium concentrations that dwarf supplements, all growing wild, asking for nothing but sunlight and rain. Scientists studying heart disease discovered populations that ate this plant daily had dramatically lower rates of cardiovascular death. Not just fewer heart attacks, fewer deaths from all causes. The protective effects were so significant that researchers initially questioned whether their data was corrupted. It was not. The plant was that powerful. Yet walk into any grocery store and you will not find it for sale. Ask any nutritionist, and they will recommend expensive supplements instead. Search online and the first results are elimination guides. The same pattern repeats everywhere. The solution is abundant and free, so the system teaches us to destroy it. The agricultural industry has invested billions in creating plants that produce a fraction of these nutrients. Genetic modification, selective breeding, laboratory enhancement, all trying to engineer what already exists in nature. The supplement industry extracts and concentrates compounds from fish and algae, charging premium prices for what grows in every vacant lot. Meanwhile, the plant waits in abandoned fields, between concrete slabs, along highway shoulders, anywhere humans have disturbed the earth but forgotten to maintain control. It volunteers itself, asking no permission, requiring no care, ready to feed anyone willing to recognize it. Climate scientists project where industrial crops will fail first: semi-arid regions, areas with irregular rainfall, places where traditional agriculture cannot adapt fast enough to changing conditions. These are precisely the environments where this plant excels. Where wheat and corn surrender to drought, it accelerates growth. Where soybeans shut down in extreme heat, it thrives. The knowledge of how to use it survives in fragments. Elderly immigrants who remember eating it in their homelands. Traditional communities that never forgot its value. Herbalists working to preserve what industrial culture tried to erase. They hold pieces of wisdom that could transform how we understand nutrition and food security. But the clock is ticking. Every generation that passes without this knowledge takes us further from the truth. Every lawn treatment that eliminates it removes potential medicine from our reach. Every agricultural policy that ignores it pushes us deeper into dependence on systems that profit from our ignorance. The plant has a name, a history, a future that depends on whether we choose to remember or continue forgetting. In the next part of this investigation, we will reveal exactly what this plant is, where to find it, and why recognizing it might be one of the most important skills you can develop for the challenges ahead. This plant has survived every attempt to erase it because it possesses something industrial agriculture cannot replicate, something that makes it virtually indestructible, something that explains why ancient civilizations built their food systems around it, and why modern corporations want it gone. The discovery happened by accident in 2019. Climate researchers at Stanford were studying drought resistance when they noticed something extraordinary. While their test crops withered in simulated extreme conditions, this wild plant not only survived, but actually increased its nutrient production. Under stress that killed everything else, it became more nutritious, not less. The mechanism defied conventional plant biology. Most vegetation responds to drought by shutting down, conserving energy, reducing growth. This plant does the opposite. It accelerates photosynthesis. It deepens its root system overnight. It concentrates nutrients in its leaves as if preparing for battle. The worse the conditions become, the more valuable it becomes as food. Dr. Sarah Chen led the research team that mapped this response. She described it as biological alchemy. The plant was transforming environmental stress into nutritional density, converting scarcity into abundance, creating medicine from adversity itself. Her published findings sent shockwaves through agricultural research communities worldwide. The implications were staggering. If crops could be engineered with similar properties, global food security would be revolutionized. Billions in research funding flooded laboratories attempting to decode the genetic mechanisms. Teams of scientists worked around the clock trying to transfer these traits to commercial varieties. Every attempt failed. The plant refused to give up its secrets. Its genome showed no unusual markers. Its cellular structure appeared ordinary under microscopes. Yet somehow it accomplished what genetic engineering could not. The trait existed, but could not be isolated, patented, or replicated. Nature had created something that science could observe, but not control. Meanwhile, the supplement industry was paying attention for different reasons. Laboratory analysis revealed that stressed plants produced exponentially higher concentrations of bioactive compounds. Omega-3 levels that made fish oil look primitive, antioxidant profiles that dwarfed manufactured vitamins, anti-inflammatory compounds that pharmaceutical companies were spending fortunes trying to synthesize. The race began immediately. Corporations attempted to harvest wild populations for extraction and concentration. They discovered what indigenous peoples had known for millennia. The plant loses its potency the moment you try to industrialize it. Fresh consumption provides maximum benefits. Processing destroys the very compounds that make it valuable. This created an impossible situation for profit-driven systems. The most nutritious food on Earth could not be packaged, shipped, or stored. It had to be consumed fresh, locally, by people who could recognize and harvest it themselves. Everything about it challenged the foundations of industrial food distribution. The response was predictable. If they could not own it, they would eliminate it. Herbicide formulations became more aggressive. Marketing campaigns painted it as increasingly dangerous. Agricultural policies classified it as a noxious weed requiring immediate removal. The war intensified. But something unexpected happened during the pandemic years. As supply chains collapsed and grocery shelves emptied, desperate people began foraging. Social media groups formed around wild food identification. YouTube channels teaching plant recognition exploded in popularity. Millions discovered that the most nutritious plants were growing in their own yards. The movement spread faster than authorities could contain it. Urban foraging groups multiplied across every major city. Community gardens began incorporating wild edibles. Restaurants started featuring foraged ingredients. The knowledge that corporations had spent decades suppressing began flowing freely through digital networks. Government agencies responded with concern, trolling disguised as public safety. Warnings about misidentification, cautions about contamination, requirements for permits and certifications. Regulations appeared seemingly overnight, making wild food harvesting legally complex and socially suspicious. Yet the plant continued spreading, not just geographically, but into human consciousness. People who learned to recognize it began seeing it everywhere. In parking lots they had walked through thousands of times. In vacant lots they had dismissed as empty. In spaces they had been conditioned to see as worthless. The psychological shift was profound. Once you understand that the most nutritious food on Earth grows wild and free, every manicured lawn becomes a tragedy. Every herbicide application becomes an act of violence against abundance. Every trip to buy supplements becomes a reminder of how thoroughly we have been deceived. Regional variations began emerging. Desert populations discovered drought-stressed varieties with concentrated nutrients that sustained them through water shortages. Northern communities found cold-hardy strains that provided essential vitamins through harsh winters. Coastal areas identified salt-tolerant types that thrived where agriculture failed. Each discovery reinforced the same pattern. This plant had evolved alongside humans, adapting to every climate where people lived. It had been our companion species for thousands of years. Industrial agriculture had convinced us to abandon our oldest ally and replace it with inferior substitutes that required constant intervention. The economic implications became clear. Communities that relearned wild food recognition reduced their dependence on external food systems. Families that incorporated foraged nutrition cut their supplement costs to zero. Regions that embraced wild edibles developed food security that no supply chain disruption could threaten. This terrified the industries that profit from scarcity. Their business models depend on people believing that nutrition is scarce, expensive, and difficult to obtain. They require consumers who see wild spaces as empty, dangerous, or worthless. They need populations that have forgotten how to feed themselves. The plant represents something more dangerous than competition. It represents proof that abundance was always available, that the scarcity driving their profits is artificial, that the most powerful nutrition on Earth grows wild and free, asking nothing but recognition. The choice is simple but not easy. you can continue believing that the richest source of omega-3 fatty acids requires a prescription bottle and a $20 payment. You can keep trusting that the most nutritious plants are the ones corporations sell you. You can maintain the illusion that abundance is scarce and freedom is expensive, or you can step outside and look down. The plant growing through the cracks in your driveway contains more healing power than anything in the pharmacy. The weed you have been taught to poison feeds you better than anything in the grocery store. The enemy you spray with chemicals is the ally that sustained your ancestors for thousands of years. This knowledge changes everything, or it changes nothing. The plant will continue growing either way. It survived the fall of empires. It outlasted 2 world wars. It endures every herbicide they develop. It waits patiently while we remember what we forgot. The supplement industry does not want you to know the medicine is free. The agricultural giants do not want you to realize their products are inferior. The system does not want you to discover that the most powerful nutrition on earth asks for nothing but your recognition. But the plant does not care what they want. It grows anyway. For you. For anyone willing to see past the deception and remember what abundance really looks like. The revolution starts in your driveway. The healing begins when you stop poisoning what was meant to feed you. The future belongs to those who remember that the most nutritious plants on earth are often the ones we have been taught to destroy.